Hey, brother.
Hey Al,
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Siblings in Crime. I'm Ali Rosso,
And I'm Blake Murphy.
and just as it sounds, we are siblings who love true crime.
Yes, absolutely love it.
Hopefully, our audio sounds better this time. We are apart again, so we're trying to make the right adjustments, but that's just showbiz sometimes.
Yeah, showbiz.
Showbiz.
Let's jump into this thing.
Let's jump in, but if you haven't yet, please like, follow, comment. We're Siblings in Crime Pod everywhere. It would mean the world to us. So in today's case, it starts off in, we're going to start in 2004. So the music is too loud with plastic chairs scrape against tile. Somewhere a child shrieks with laughter, but Luz Cuevas doesn't laugh. She stands at the edge of the room, arms folded, shoulders tight. It's a birthday party, but she does not feel festive. She barely knows half the people here, and the other half, well, it's like her ex-husband's family, so it's a little complicated. She's there to support the kids, basically. It's everything a child's party should be, but still something feels off. She can't quite put her finger on it, but it rises like static under her skin. She moves through the room, somewhere in the crowd of children. Her gaze catches on something and lingers, and her smile fades. She doesn't know what she's seen exactly, but something is bothering her and she can't let go. Her mouth goes dry, her palms sweat. It's not fear, not anger, it's I guess not really sadness, and so she excuses herself, and no one notices her slip out the front door. No one follows. The outside is cooler, quieter, but the churn in her stomach hasn't gone away. She gets in her car, grips the steering wheel, and without fully knowing why, she drives straight to the police. This is the story of the lost girl. It's the story of Delimar Vera. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's roll. When she gets to the police station, she doesn't have hard evidence. She doesn't have paperwork, photographs, a clear explanation, but something about what she saw at the party won't let her stay quiet. At the station, she tries to express her concerns. She attempts to describe what she saw and maybe more accurately what she felt, but it doesn't land. Not with any of the officers behind the desk, that is, at least. To them, she's a woman still grieving a tragedy that happened 6 years ago. She's made similar visits to the police station before. She's raised questions, asked for updates, pushed theories. It's always the same pattern: emotional, persistent, inconclusive. Eventually, Luce walks out, not because her mind has changed, but because she's been in this situation before. It's always a dead end. But this time, she doesn't stop here. She begins reaching out to others, anyone that will listen, and that's when she lands on her local state representative, Angel Cruz. He's a man known for being accessible to his North Philadelphia citizens, especially the Hispanic community. So Luz contacts his office and explains her concerns, whether it be out of curiosity, out of interest, or whatever it is this time. She finally has someone that will listen to her story. Angel Cruz sits her down as Luz spills everything that has happened to her and that's been on her mind for the last 6 years. And this is her story from the beginning. She sits down. She starts from the top. December 14th, 1997. So this is like literally a month after I was born. Kind
Yeah.
of cool. Luz Cuevas is at her house in North Philadelphia row house on 6th Street. Do you know what a row house is? I haven't even heard of that term. Hmm.
No, I don't know what that is.
I know. I was like, is this like a normal thing for people to know? It's basically like a townhouse, like in the city, all the houses
Oh.
lined up like
Oh,
that.
in a row?
Yep, in a row. Nice. Wow, you're so smart.
One second, one
No.
second.
Oh my
Of
gosh.
my drink.
Of course. You always have a beverage on hand. So they're in like kind of like a townhouse on 6th Street, and it's cold outside, obviously. It's December in Philadelphia. The neighborhood is quiet. Her newborn daughter, Delimar, is just 10 days old at this point. She's the youngest of three children. So there's two older brothers and then the youngest daughter, Delimar, that they just had. And they're running around in and out of the rooms. They're running with cousins. It's like a really fun family. Like they're always having parties and such. And Luz is tired, but I mean, she's happy. She's surrounded by like laughter and joy and all the things that you want in like your home. That afternoon, Caroline comes by, and Luz knows her vaguely. Like, so it's her spouse at the time, Pedro. It's his cousin through marriage. So, like a distant relationship. So Caroline says that she's having car trouble, so she comes by. Pedro, I guess, is known to be good with cars. I think he was a car mechanic by trade, but he kind of just helped people out. It seems like it was issues with brakes. I don't know anything about cars. I wouldn't know anything. But she goes by and gets some assistance from her distant cousin. And during this time, like he's looking at the car, so Luz starts talking to her briefly. I mean, they're chit-chatting and bonding, kind of more of her motherhood, because Caroline herself tells Luz how she just had her own baby. And so they're talking about all things motherhood. And eventually, once everything is kind of squared away with Pedro and the car, she sees herself out. That's that. The next day is December 15th. Luce is preparing for a small Christmas gathering at her home. It's just some foods, a few relatives. It's kind of like the closer knit of the family. And the boys are excited, playing and running around. There's music, Christmas spirit in the house, basically. And Delimar, the 10-day-old baby, is upstairs, asleep in her crib. Nothing out of the normal. Luce checks
Hmm.
on her constantly, as any mother would, right? And partway through the evening, Caroline, the distant cousin, comes back. She says she left her purse upstairs during her visit the day before, and Luce lets her in, which is like obviously not weird. She's family. I mean, she wasn't invited to the Christmas party, but she also is kind of separate from the family in a way. So Caroline walks up, she stares, she grabs her stuff, comes back down, thanks Luce, and heads out. Not
Hmm.
long after, the smell of smoke creeps through the house. Luce races to the stairs. The second floor is filling with thick, dark smoke. Flames are pushing through the walls. Family and friends start pushing their way, trying to get out of the house because they have a crowded house. And now there's a fire. I feel like a lot of cases we've been doing have fire recently.
Yeah. It's a way that people think they can get rid of evidence.
That's true. So I'm sure it's a pretty common thing in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying to book it for the door, but this poor mom is like going against the crowd, trying to get upstairs to where her baby is sleeping. Luz frantically tries to get her, but the heat is overwhelming, as you can imagine. Her screams echo through the house as neighbors are even rushing to try and help. So firefighters finally arrive, and they have to pull Luz from the burning home, kicking and screaming. It was like the heat and the flames are barely enough to keep her out of this baby's nursery. And she is frantic, she is burned, and she can't find her child. When the flames are finally extinguished, Delamar is gone. The crib is destroyed and the walls are charred black. Authorities investigate, but to them there wasn't much to investigate. Firefighters declared Delamar dead at the scene. They concluded it was an accidental electrical fire, likely started from a space heater that was in the baby's room to keep it warm.
I feel like space heaters cause a lot of fires.
Do you? I feel like they don't. Look it up. I'm
Okay.
confused. Well,
Do
I don't.
you?
Well, because I literally have in my notes like, how likely is that? I feel like a lot of them, I don't know about in 1997, but I feel like a lot of them, they're meant to like, if they get knocked over or something, to automatically turn off, unless maybe that like system is broken or something of the type. But I don't know if that's a stat that's even available to look up, but I would be curious to know.
So the space heater fires were a concern in the 1990s as they are today, due to the risk of overheating or igniting nearby combustible materials.
Oh. So it's more like lighting something else on fire that's like nearby, like a curtain or blanket or something.
Yeah, or overheating.
That's so interesting. So not really necessarily it like tipping over or anything like that.
Hmm. I guess
Hmm.
not. Maybe back in the day that happened more.
I can see that. Yeah, so like they're like, okay, this is open and shut. Like something happened. And obviously as like for her as the mother who put the space heater in the bedroom, she's living with massive guilt because of this. And they tell Luz and her family that the fire was just too hot for such a tiny baby. I mean, she's 10 days old, so she's tiny, tiny. And the flames had completely incinerated their 10-year-old or 10-day-old baby. That there was
And
nothing even left to
they know that
recover.
for sure.
That's what I mean, upon their investigation, yeah. So they're like,
Mm.
the fire was hot. Like, this small of a child would not be able to be like nothing is left to receive. And so they don't have even a baby to like have a proper funeral for. They have nothing left. So a death certificate is issued, but they don't have a casket. They don't do anything like that because there's really nothing that they can do to have a proper funeral. They have like photos, right? They have like kind of like a memorial type, but like once they found out that there was nothing to recover, like you can't really grieve in the proper way.
Hmm.
But like you, Luce isn't convinced that a fire could completely destroy a child, like in that way where there's nothing left. She urges the investigators to take another look into the case. She argues that the window had been open, which she would have never done. It's December in Philadelphia, and she swears like she had closed the window, it's never been opened, and that she swears that when she went in there to try and find her baby, that the window was open and that the crib was empty from what she could tell. Obviously, there was flames everywhere, so it could have been mislooked at. But she calls the authorities repeatedly and she pushes and pleads. But the rest of the world, like, they closed it off. Case closed, an unspeakable tragedy with really no one to blame except for something that happened with the space heater. She's told to grieve, to let go. She goes to therapy. She does all the proper steps, but she just can't let go because in the back of her mind and deep in her gut, she knows that Delimar wasn't in that fire. She goes on, she has like other kids, right? So she has the two older sons, and then a few years later, she has a third son. So four total kids, including Delamar. So she goes on, she has to do what she can to take care of her sons. She works, she smiles, she functions, but inside she's waiting and watching, clinging on to anything like of her long, like belated child. Now, if I were in her shoes, at what point do you start second guessing, like if your child was in that fire? Because her big thing is, I know that she wasn't in the crib. I saw the window open. Like Delamar wasn't in the bedroom. But the firefighters are saying the fire had completely consumed her child. At what point do you start like believing the firefighters? Like I don't know how long you hold on to that.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you just think that the firefighters are professionals and know exactly what happened or
Mm.
kind of know more than you. But
Yeah,
also, you wouldn't want to think that, but you wouldn't really know what else would have happened or could have happened. Like, seems like that was the only, it's not gonna, like, the baby can't get up and run out or anything like that.
that's true. Yeah, I mean, obviously, neither of us are parents, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Like at like I can't imagine being able to decipher if you're grieving and holding on to something or if like you're having some sort of mother intuition, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what's kind of been like on her mind obviously this whole time and kind of itching at her is like deciding I don't know if this is true or not, but this has been bothering me for this whole time. And this is what she's telling that representative we're talking about, Angel Cruz. She goes on to keep telling him that now, 6 years later, it's 2004, like when we started the story, everything changes when she goes to that birthday party. It was obviously kind of an awkward situation among strangers. And so she's kind of amongst people that she doesn't really affiliate with. At this point, her and her husband are separated. I mean, you hear that all the time, the grief of losing a child. Also, it sounds like he was like, hey, listen, the firefighter said this, and she could not let go of the fact that she doesn't think her child had died in that fire.
Hmm.
And over time, it just caused the marriage to break apart. But they have three children, other children together. So she's going to the events, kind of a weird thing. And then when she's at that birthday party, that's when she sees her, a little girl about 6 years old with eyes that feel familiar, dimples that match her son's, and a profile that makes Luz stop breathing.
Oh,
She
wow.
does, well, she doesn't cause a scene. She doesn't ask questions. She just watches. I can't imagine if you feel like this weird connection to this little girl you've never seen before. She's like in awe. So she's just looking at this child And every instinct in her body is like surging to the surface, of course. But
Yeah.
she can't be like, hey, everybody, like you don't want to
Yeah.
make a scene.
Hmm.
And so when the girl, she goes off, she's hanging out with her cousins, every 6-year-old little does. She goes upstairs to
Does she
go.
not see these people very much at all?
No, well, these are like distant family relatives as well. So it's like, and this is on her husband's side
Yeah.
that there she's now an ex with. So it's not like she's ever around these people. Must have been a pretty big birthday party. I mean, if
Yeah.
everybody was invited to it. And so the girl goes upstairs. She's playing in a bedroom, and Luz falls with the excuse that she has to go to the bathroom. So she goes upstairs, and she makes up a reason to kind of chit chat with this girl. And the girl introduces herself as Aaliyah. Luz is starstruck. She immediately comes up with a quick excuse that there is gum in the little girl's hair, and she gently just snips a few strands of hair. Okay, this is hilarious to me.
Mhm.
You can tell that she's a true crime girl. She's like,
Yeah.
I'll take that hair, which rips some hair out of this child, and then just puts it in a little baggie and leaves the party without saying goodbye, slips out the door, and that's when she's in her car, heart pounding, heading straight to the police station.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's no plan, obviously. It's just like this plastic bag of hair and a heart full of instinct.
Yeah.
And she
She's like, I
tells
have
them,
DNA.
I know, she's like, and like to cops, that's not going to mean much. And at the same time, you're going to the police station, and that's not where they can even test DNA. So she gets there, and they're like, hey, sorry, we can't do anything for you. I don't even know what you're talking about. And this is what leads her to sit down what she's currently doing with the state representative, Angel Cruz. And everything I just told you is the story that she is telling this state representative. Once she finishes her full story, from the time of the fire all the way up to this birthday party 6 years later, of course, Angel is intrigued. He's like, weird. He's a little wary of it, as you can imagine. And he explains to her that getting DNA testing done is not all that simple. Like, it's not just like you walk into a lab and you're like, hey, test this. There are
Yeah.
protocols, there are hoops to jump through. And if the story and suspicion that Luce is telling Angel was true, and the girl that Luce saw at the birthday party truly was her long lost daughter, Delimar, like she thinks it is, well, that's going to be hard to explain.
Yeah. I wonder if nowadays there's more like third party labs where you can go pay like $1,000 to get something tested. But back in the day, probably not as much.
I don't think it was as common, but I have seen sources that say that you can pay to like get something sampled, but it's really expensive. And
Mm.
Delamar wasn't in a position to be able to just pay out of pocket for this. Or not Delamar, that's the baby. Luce wasn't in a position to just pay out of pocket. And so she's trying to go through the right steps, the right course of action. But I mean, that
Yeah.
takes time. That's tough.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's gotta be kind of hard for Angel to accept. Like, hey, the last time you saw your baby, she was 10 days old, and you're telling me that you looked at a
You
6 year
recognize
old?
her?
Yeah, and you're like, that's her. I don't know. I see my friends' babies, and I'm like, I don't see any resemblance to the parent.
Yeah.
So bad at being able to like identify facial features and stuff. But so
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. But on paper, like this 6-year-old girl is the biological daughter of a woman, you may have guessed it, Carolyn Correa. The same Carolyn that is listed as her legal guardian is the same distant cousin that came over to get her car fixed the day before the Christmas party, and is the same cousin
Mm.
that came to go get her purse during the Christmas party, and evidently gave birth to a baby that same week that Luce did. And so at this birthday
Was she like
party,
fake pregnant?
well, that's what we're going to talk
Or was
about.
she like,
It's
or
like,
was she like, did she look pregnant when she was doing all this stuff before?
yeah. So they're like,
Oh, so
she,
she,
well,
nobody
well,
was suspicious.
yeah. Luce is like, why would I have any reason to suspect that she's lying about a pregnancy? Like, that's a pretty big deal. But I
Yeah.
guess at the birthday party, Luce was like trying to talk to this child, Aaliyah, and Carolyn, the mother, like ran over, was like, "Hey, time to go." They just got up and left in a hurry. So it made her
Hmm.
extra suspicious, like maybe I don't know anything about this person the way I thought I did.
Yeah.
Because Carolyn is obviously listed as the biological mother, the
Mutter.
state mother, the state they can't just authorize a DNA test on a child without either like parental consent or probable cause of a crime.
Yeah.
And obviously they have neither. They just have like a gut feeling. And the hair sample that she took from the child, one, I don't even know how legal that is, just to like steal it and then try and get it DNA tested. Like maybe there's
Yeah, or it's like
complications.
weird to explain. You're like, yeah, they're like, where'd you get this? And you're like,
Great
stole it from her
question.
head.
Yeah, exactly. And so
She
it's
had gum
like,
in her hair, and I took it out.
yeah, then I was suspicious after. I just want to get it tested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what she kind of missed was the fact that you have to have obviously the root connected to the hair. And so even with the hair that she brought, it didn't have the usable DNA that it would need to get tested anyways. So I don't know if I would have been brave enough just to pluck a girl's hair and like act on instinct, but Luce is a freaking boss for that. So
Freaking boss.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, you always make fun of me. So Angel starts pushing kind of behind the scenes. He's kind of on board at this point. He's like, this is actually pretty interesting. And he contacts New Jersey's Division of Youth and Family Services. And eventually, working through the proper, you're right, I can't speak today,
I
the
know.
proper legal channels, a family court judge authorizes a welfare. Wow. A family court judge authorizes a welfare check at Carolyn's home and grants permission actually to get a DNA collection. So now it's like court ordered.
We're
And
zeroing in right now.
that's what I'm saying.
Let's
Investigators
go.
arrive quickly because of this. And
Yeah.
during the visit, they actually collect mouth swabs from both Aaliyah and Carolyn to limit all doubt. What they don't know is that obviously Carolyn's pretty on edge. Like, as I keep saying as a mother, and I'm not. I feel like if I was a mom, if someone came in and wanted mouth swabs of my kids, even if I knew I gave birth to them, that would make me kind of uncomfortable. Like, what are you doing with
Hmm.
this? Like, that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, like, whether like that's your child or not,
But
you're
you're
probably
even
gonna
more
be.
on edge if you know it's not yours.
Yeah, exactly. True. She's like suspecting obviously something's wrong. Maybe that she's might be getting in trouble. That someone might be coming for the truth, that is. In a last-ditch effort to interfere, she actually pays for a private DNA test, hoping to kind of delay the inevitable. So they're like, hey, come back. I'm gonna get a private DNA sampler guy. And so it gets pushed back a little bit. But according to
He
later
goes on the
accounts,
run.
yes, no, she actually doesn't. I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah.
According to later accounts, she even sprays something into Aaliyah's mouth, which ends up later being identified as her own saliva in a desperate attempt to contaminate a sample.
Mm.
So now we're like, okay, everything's suspicious. She sprays this stuff into her child's mouth, says, hey, don't swallow. Weird. And Aaliyah goes over to the investigator when she's getting the mouth swab and says, my mom just sprayed something in my mouth. And they're like,
Gotcha.
yeah, like, okay, everything's coming together. But obviously that doesn't work. The state-run lab processed the official swabs. There's no mix-ups, no interference, just clean, irrefutable science. And then the call
Good old
comes.
detective work.
Good old detective work. It's a match. The little girl known as Aaliyah Hernandez is not Carolyn's biological daughter. She
Mm.
is Delimar Vera, the infant who was declared dead in a fire 6 months
Wow.
earlier.
That's crazy. I feel like that's like we've done a case similar. Like that's wild. I wonder how often this happens.
Well, that's what I was wondering too. I think it was like our first or second, I think it was our second or third case, that a baby was stolen from a hospital.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to me that there's people out there that could do such a horrible act. Like, I understand, like, maybe
And they're
mother's
planning it for
desperation.
months.
Right. So it's
They're
like,
like,
go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying they're like are pretending to be pregnant for 9 months and then they're just waiting for their friend to have a baby and then they just wipe it. That's crazy.
Seeing, like, you have to have something mentally wrong. I'm convinced.
Hmm.
Like, there's nothing that any
Obviously.
sane person, yeah, no matter like how great you raised or didn't raise that child, like you're messed up. And it's so
Yeah.
sad taking this child from a loving family.
Yeah.
So, like, after all this time, Luce was right. The fire wasn't an accident. The death certificate was a lie. And the child she buried in her heart actually never died. She was taken. And now everything begins to unravel. Police, like we said, move in quickly. Within days of the confirmed match, they tracked down Carolyn Correa and the woman who spent 6 years raising Delimar under the name Aaliyah. And she's living in Willingboro, that's how you say it, New Jersey, still presenting herself as the girl's biological mother. Carolyn actually doesn't resist arrest. Like, that's why I was surprised that she
Like, it was
didn't,
me.
like,
You guys got it.
yeah, she's like, all right, like I'm surprised she didn't run when she had extra time. I'm surprised that she's just like, okay. She's taken into custody and charged with multiple felonies. I think it was like 15, 20 felonies, if I remember right. But what she was like really primarily charged with,
Kidnapping?
yep, kidnapping, arson, interference with custody, and concealment of a child's identity are the whopping four.
I didn't know that that was a crime. Concealment of a child's identity.
Yeah, it sounds intense
It
now that
must
like
it
it's
must
crazy.
must happen enough where people have to get charged by it to
That's
like
so
give them some
sad.
more time. I don't know.
And I'm like, concealment of a child's identity, like, why
Like
would
why
that be
would
happening unless you're kidnapping a child?
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I'm all for it. Smack something else on there. Give another reason to go in jail.
Yeah.
Get him! Behind the charges is a trial of deception that stretches back years, actually, which, I mean, she seems like she's been a pathological liar this whole time. But her real first major crime was back in 1996, just a year before Delamar was born.
You tried to sell
She
different, baby.
Good guess. We're gonna go the arson route. She actually
No.
was working at a medical office and she was a billing clerk. Evidently, she had set fire to her own workplace, likely destroying documents after being fired. She pleaded
Jeez.
guilty. Yeah, she
She's
pled.
crazy.
Yeah, I know. It seems like she has not a problem with setting things on fire. That's for sure. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced,
Bud.
pled, yeah, whatever, sentenced to 5 years probation, which I don't know what the normal amount of time for arson is. I can't tell if that seems like a lot or a little, but the
I
fact
have
that
no
she
idea either.
burnt down, see what that would be. She burnt down like literally an office building.
I feel like there's probably different levels, but I'm gonna say um
I guess 5 years maybe sounds right. If no one's hurt, it's maybe a factor. But this was in 1996, so just the next year, Carolyn had told people that she gave birth at home in late 1997, that there was no witnesses, no paperwork, and no medical records, just a claim that she had a baby and literally a child in her home, which is diabolical. People that know her, no one like refutes that they thought she was pregnant, but also I don't think she had like a massive baby bump or anything like that. Like she told people she was pregnant and people just kind of took her word for it.
yeah, it says for instance, arson of a structure or a property can be a class 4 felony. Um, Arson of an occupied structure could be a class 2 felony. Um, the class, so one of them is 1.5 to 3.75 years for the first offense, and then the class 2 felony is 3 years to 12.5 years. And then reckless burning, a less severe sentence may result in class 1 misdemeanor.
Hmm.
So probably 1.5 to 12.5 years, depending on how bad it is.
It's
You
quite the
don't
range.
hurt anyone. Yeah.
So I guess 5 years kind of makes sense.
Mm.
The truth the investigators now believe is chilling, obviously. This is what they theorize what actually went down those 2 days where the story began. On December 14th, 1997, Carolyn visited Luz Cuevas' home under the pretense of needing help with her car. She maybe used it as a ruse to meet the baby, to kind of, this is like her first time in the house, so maybe get familiar with the home, the layout. The next day, during the small holiday party, she returned claiming that she left her purse upstairs. So, of course, Luce let her in, and according to the prosecution's timeline, that's when Carolyn took Delamar from her crib, hid the baby in either a bag or like her jacket or some sort, and I mean, it's only 10 days old, so it's a very small baby, and slipped back down the stairs and left the house amongst everyone kind of partying. Like everyone's a little distracted, there's music, all this stuff. That's when she
Hmm.
got out. Moments later is when the fire erupted, and investigators believe that Carolyn set the blaze, obviously, intentionally. She's done it before.
Hmm. Yeah.
They think that she used accelerants to ignite the crib area and cover her tracks, like you said in the beginning. It was meant to look like a tragic accident, a fire so intense that left nothing behind, no baby, no questions, and of course, it almost worked. For the next 6 years, Carolyn built a life around this lie, and she raised Delimar as Aaliyah and enrolled her in private school and put her into modeling and acting gigs. Like she's a child, she's 6 years old. And she
Yeah.
appeared, I think, like in a toy commercial. She was actually on an episode of Blue's Clues, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, she
That's
was
crazy.
like, I know, I went down a rabbit or a Reddit rabbit hole, but I guess she was in like an episode in season 5, but she was just kind of briefly in it as like a friend in the show or whatever. And
Yeah.
she was even in a Times Magazine article. And she's like
Oh, wow.
smiling, she's innocent, she's completely unaware of the truth that's going on around her. So
Yeah.
it's so weird, like for how involved Carolyn was in having her daughter do like all these acting and these modeling, it doesn't sound like they ever had a super close relationship.
Mm.
So Carolyn kept up this illusion, but there were cracks, of course. She hadn't just
Yeah.
started a fire, she hadn't just taken a child. She had literally stolen a child's life and built an entire
Yeah.
world on top of someone else's grief.
That's crazy.
So as the word spreads, like I mean, obviously this is like huge deal, especially in the community.
Yeah.
Investigators began asking deeper questions. Like one of the most important ones is, did Carolyn act alone? She had faked her pregnancy. Obviously, now we know. What else is she lying about?
Hmm.
And like an inmate interrogation. I think this was after the fact. They were going through and asking her further
Yeah.
questions. She claimed
Trying
her,
to.
right. She claimed her cousin and Delamar's dad was involved. But
Wow. That'd be
Ped
wild.
that would be wild. Pedro, he insists he had no knowledge of the lie. He says that Carolyn told him that she had recently given birth and he just believed her with that. And
Classic guy.
I know,
Like,
he
don't
doesn't
ask too
ask
many
any
questions.
questions.
Yeah.
No, that's so standard.
Like, you're golfing. Like, oh, yeah, these people got divorced. Oh, why? I don't know.
That's so classic.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like,
just
just
like
ask
to.
one more further question.
Yeah. Tatum always gets mad at me.
That's funny. Yeah, and so that's kind of how this guy seemed to be. He's like, she just said she had a baby. I didn't know anything about her life. So I'm like, okay. And so authorities actually find no evidence that he was involved in the kidnapping or the cover-up, which you can kind of go down a different rabbit hole. Like some news articles say how a couple of the other cousins always kind of talked about how they didn't think that Delamar or Aaliyah was Carolyn's kid because there's no like physical resemblance really. I'm like, dang, like if the family's all talking about this, I'm surprised that no one just took it a step further. And even the cousins in the articles are like, yeah, like we thought that people were looking into it. I'm like, what the heck? That's a pretty big assumption against somebody. Like, hey, I think you
Yeah.
stole a child.
Yeah. It's also awkward to try to say someone did too, though.
Right. I think we talked about that in the episode, like episode 3, I think it was, with the other baby that got stolen was like if people have suspicions, that's kind of like a weird thing to admit to, like, hey, I think you stole a child, but also if you had suspicions, you would hope that somebody would speak up as well. So
Yeah.
I think another factor why they probably had these thoughts is that Luce never was quiet about how she thought that someone may have kidnapped her child and how she didn't think the baby was burned in that fire. So maybe that they were just telling themselves stories, like maybe I'm just thinking this because of Luce's opinion, but regardless, nothing was ever able to tie Pedro to the kidnapping. And so the lie was like basically finally over.
Yeah.
Delamar is placed into protective care, of course. And Luz Cuevas, after 6 years of being ignored and dismissed, is told that she can finally see her daughter again. That'd be so
Whoa.
hard.
That would be weird.
Oh, it'd be so hard for the child. The first meeting is set in a neutral room at a New Jersey Family Services office. Luz arrives early. She sits on the edge of the couch. Of course, she's nervous, still unsure of how this will all go down. And then the doors open. Delamar walks in quietly and then surprisingly kind of dives under the table. The social worker gives Luz like a glance like, hey, this might be kind of weird for her. But then Delamar pops up with a grin and yells, surprise, and just like shouts and is laughing and giggling. And they're like, okay. And Luz like finally catches her breath and realizes that the daughter's just being playful. Maybe she doesn't have a full understanding of what's going on. But
Yeah.
her body moves before her mind does, and she goes and kneels and down and reaches out for her daughter. And in a voice barely louder than a whisper, Delamar, for the first time ever, calls Luz mommy.
Whoa.
That's a huge step. I'm like, your first time
Yeah.
meeting and you're comfortable with calling her mom. You're kind of like in a playful mood. But I'll have videos playing of like these different encounters, and she seems like the most bubbly child ever. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's so fun to see like she's loving all the attention when like this all comes to light. And she's just, I mean, I guess she was a little actress girl, so maybe that's a factor. But
Mhm.
there's one big barrier that still stands in the way, and that is that Luz only speaks Spanish, and
Oh,
Delamar
wow.
was raised only speaking English.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so the gap between them is wide because of this, but Luz doesn't care. She wraps her daughters up in her arms, and even though she can't verbally talk about her love, she definitely expresses it with affection.
Hmm.
And these visits continue. They make it sound like it's going to be like a long process for Delamar to get situated and in the home. But just a week later, Delamar is living in the home with Luce and her family.
Oh, good.
It's
That's
pretty
crazy.
quick. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
shockingly quick. So Delamar is probably pretty confused and curious, but over time, that bond deepens. Like I said, I found this interview on UNW with Delamar. It was like on Facebook, on TikTok, all things. And it's so cute to hear one, like little Delamar, but also this is what she says as an adult about the reunion and the contrast of homes.
You feel like you're at home?
Yeah, I feel like I'm at my real home.
This is your real home now?
Yeah.
When I came back with my mom and my real family, everything was just so exciting.
What are you going to be doing now?
I'm gonna get pizza and play with my brothers.
Everybody was happy to see me, and I met my brothers and they were just so loving and so accepting. My brothers really helped me communicate with my mom. They were always translating. Mom would only speak Spanish. It was difficult, but I tried my best and, really tried to adjust and get along with everybody and, make it seem like I never left. I don't have a lot of fond memories with Carolyn being nurturing. She was never really around. I didn't have that super loving connection with her. That was missing. And then here I go to this other family who just loves me, and I just felt like the center of the universe in their home. I just remember more joy being in that environment in comparison to being in Carol's home.
So Luce is patient, obviously. She doesn't push her daughter that just found out she's her daughter into like the family things right away. She doesn't push for affection. She doesn't expect to reclaim 6 lost years all at once.
Hmm.
But she's just always there for her daughter. And little by little, Delamar accepts it. She becomes
Nice.
part of the family. It's actually so like it's cool because Delamar is my age now. Like she's 27 or so, 26, something like that.
Hmm.
27. And so she's on Instagram now and like I'm able to stalk her life. Like it's so cute
Yeah.
to see like I can't imagine all the trauma that came from such like a horrible realization that you were actually kidnapped as a child,
Yeah.
and what she's done with her life now is incredible. So in 2005, though, Carolyn pleaded no contest to charges of kidnapping, arson, and interference with custody and the concealment of a child's identity. And so she was actually sentenced to 9 to 30 years in prison, but
Dang.
she became eligible for parole in just 2014. So she served like the minimum time of 9 years,
Hmm.
which Delamar herself was like only 9 years. Like she doesn't think it was long enough. No one else was charged, and so investigators ultimately found no evidence of co-conspirators and say that Carolyn acted alone. As for Delamar, like I said, the reunion was surreal as the kidnapping, I imagine.
Hmm.
Delamar moved in with Luce and with her two older brothers, Wilfredo. I'm probably saying that so wrong, but it's a cute name, and Israel, and her younger brother now, Samuel, who had been born after the fire. Luce was awarded full custody, and Delamar began to kind of rebuild her identity piece by piece. She received counseling, she learned Spanish.
Nice.
Meanwhile, yeah, her relationship with her dad, Pedro, like her biological father, was a little more complicated just because the family was separated at the time. Though he had some form of contact with Carolyn in the earlier days, he was never charged or implicated, and he had visitation rights. And so she was actually with her dad every other weekend. And it sounds like they actually maintained a great relationship and they were able to kind of grow in their bond of father and daughter. But Luz and Pedro, their relationship never rekindled even after the finding of their daughter. So, like I said, as for the child once known as Aaliyah, which is Delamar, today she's a grown woman. She lives in Philadelphia with her husband and his 11-year-old, so her stepson. They all live together. She has spoken publicly about the emotional complexity of her past and the weight of being the girl who came back and the process of reclaiming her own name. So for a while, she was going by Aaliyah even in Luce's family home, just because that's all she knew. They didn't want to freak her out by calling her a different name. But eventually, she actually changed her name to be Delamar. So now she's back
Oh,
to
nice.
Delamar, right? I think that's cute.
Hmm.
She continues to live a quiet, stable life, far removed from the fire and the headlines. And as far as Luce, the mother, she never gave up. Not when they told her she was wrong, not when they told her to bury an empty casket, not when her instincts made her the subject of ridicule. She fought, she waited, and in the end, she found the truth. She found her daughter. Because sometimes, like, the system fails, but I guess a mother intuition never does. And so
Hmm.
that is the story of Delimar Vera, the lost child.
Wow. That
Isn't
was
that
wild.
crazy? I know.
That was
I
very
was.
crazy.
This is actually a movie now,
Oh,
and
really?
I watched it. It was actually it's actually super cute. It's on Amazon Prime, and if you look up Delimar Vera on Instagram, like the movie's in her bio, like she's very open about her story, and she talks about how she's
Cool.
not just like identifying as a victim, like she's a recovering victim, but she's a
Yeah.
mother, she's a spouse, she's a working woman, like she's done everything to rebuild her life, and so this is one of the few cases that we have as a happy ending.
Wow. That is crazy.
So thought it'd
Happy
be
at the
nice.
end for sure.
I know. So kind of rare
Crazy.
for us. I thought it'd be
Yeah.
nice to do something that is a little optimistic this time around. But anyways, I just thought that was a really cool story. She's stunning. Seems so nice, and so I wanted to tell her story. But as far as you, do you have any not so fun facts or true crime news for us?
Yeah. So in true crime news, in the state of Arizona, the man accused of killing pastor who is found with his arms outstretched, similar to a crucifixion. Um, so obviously he was found, the jury recently indicted the 51-year-old man in connection with the death of the pastor. And it's alleged that he had a plot to kill multiple Christian leaders.
Did he ever say
So
why?
not yet, I don't think. But yeah,
I
so
guess
that
that's
happened in
coming out right
April.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
more to
So he'll
come.
probably go to trial soon, and it's pretty wild and sad.
Scary.
Um, so that's one thing that's going on, kind of scary. Um, so there was a man in Texas who allegedly killed his wife, wrapped her in plastic, and lived with a decomposing body for a month.
Ew, what the
Yeah.
heck?
Yeah. So the authorities recently announced the arrest of a wanted man who stands accused of killing his wife and living with her body decomposing for nearly a month. According to the sheriff, on the night of June 19th, deputies responded to a call from a concerned relative who believed 49-year-old Charles Bird had killed his wife, Angela Bird, at the scene. The sheriff's office discovered the suspect decomposing remains and Angela Bird wrapped in plastic. So
I'm pretty sure there's
that
a
is
pretty
wild.
similar Criminal Minds case like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If you're anywhere near Criminal Minds level, that's pretty intense.
Yeah,
Heartbreaking.
that's gross.
That's sad.
Yeah. So there's a couple more, but this one's kind of interesting. And gross. A Washington man was a serial rapist and former pub owner sentenced to over 100 years for assaulting multiple victims.
Ew.
So I'm sure he preyed on people who went to his pub and kind of got too drunk, but I'm not exactly sure.
That's disgusting.
But he did get 109 years.
Good. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they give like a certain time like that. Like 109 is so specific.
Yeah, because they like stack up all the charges and
I know.
stuff.
I love that actually. Like, good. Go get him.
Yeah.
And for each individual victim, you know?
Yeah. So that's all that we have today. But some kind of crazy ones.
So the world's still wild, huh?
Yep.
Well, sweet. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We will be back next Wednesday with another episode of Siblings in Crime.